All right, boys and girls, this is Math Message 3-4, the main math lesson of the day. And in this math lesson, we're going to learn how to add three-digit numbers using the column addition strategy. Now, yesterday I told you that we're going to use a couple of different strategies in this unit to add three-digit numbers and eventually get to that old-fashioned traditional algorithm that your parents are used to. So tell them to be patient. We are getting there, and this strategy is one step closer to getting there. All right, so let's look at a couple of problems. All right, so you should have whiteboard or paper in front of you. If you don't yet, please pause video, get yourself prepared and ready to go. And the first problem that we are going to do is 248 plus 187. Now, I told you that this is column addition. So what I want you to do when you write this problem is I want you to spread the numbers out a little bit so that you can make some nice wide columns. So we're going to do 248, but I'm going to spread it out a little bit in 187. Okay, I want to keep it nice and spread out. I really want to pay attention. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and draw lines down through there. Whoops, I don't know why that turned black, because I want to make sure that I have my hundreds lined up, my tens are lined up, and my ones are lined up. So I'm even going to go ahead and draw those lines in between my columns. Go ahead and pause the video and get your paper set up to look like this. Okay, so boys and girls, here's how this strategy works. You're going to go ahead and you're going to add up each column. All right, so I'm going to add up the digits in my hundreds column. 2 plus 1 is 3. I'm going to go ahead and add up the digit in my tens column. 8 plus 4 is 12. And then I'm going to go ahead and add up the digits in my ones column. 8 plus 7 is 15. Okay, so now here's what's going to be really important with this strategy. We can't leave two digits in each of these place values. If you see one of these columns has a double-digit number in there, we're going to have to trade. Okay, you know how when we're using base 10 blocks, we have to, if we have more than 10 tens, or I mean 10 ones, we got to trade it for a 10, right? If we have more than 10 tens, we have to trade it for 100. So now that I have my columns added up, I'm going to look to see, are there any columns that have more than 10? All right, so let's start with the ones place. I have 15 ones. I can trade those 15 ones for 10 and 5 ones, right? So I'm going to now trade this 10. I'm going to put it over to my tens place. So I'm going to turn that into 13. That leaves me with 5 here because I took the 10 over to the tens place, and I still have my 3 in my hundreds place. Okay, now I'm going to look at my numbers. Do I still have any columns that has two digits in it? And I do. In my tens place, I have 13 tens. Now, guys, what happens when we have 13 tens? We can take 10 of those tens and trade it for what? 100, right? So I'm going to take 10 tens over and turn this into 400. Now I still have my 3 tens left, and I still have my 5 ones left. And so I just kind of keep dropping those numbers down as I go. Once I have each of my columns only having one digit in each column, I know that I am done. Okay, might seem a little bit confusing. We're going to try a couple more problems together. All right, whoops, ignore that here. Ignore that. Give me a second. All right, sorry about that. Let's look at this next problem. 439 plus 171. All right, so let's go ahead and let's rewrite this number. We're going to write it vertically, and remember, we're really going to spread those numbers out. So when you write it on your paper or on your whiteboard, you're going to write 439 plus 171. Okay, and go ahead and draw those lines down between your columns. All right. All right, so now let's go ahead and let's add up just each of the columns. Go ahead and pause the video and just add up each of the columns. All right, so I have 4 plus 1 is 5. I have 3 plus 7 is 10. And I have 9 plus 1 is 10. Okay, so now when I step back and I look at that number, I can't have a number written like this, okay? My answer can't be 510. All right, so now I'm going to do some trading. Let's start with the ones place. I always like to start with the ones place. All right, guys, if I'm going to trade, I have 10 ones. What can I trade 10 ones for? Well, I can trade it for a 10, right? So I'm going to trade those 10 ones over here. Now I have 11 tens. Now I have 0 ones because all I had were 10 ones. So I traded those 10 ones for a 10. All right, and I'm just going to go ahead and drop down my 5. Always just keep dropping down the digits as you go. All right, so now I'm still not done. I still have a column that has a double-digit number in there. What happens when I have 11 tens? Well, 10 of those trade for 100, right? So I'm going to trade that over to the hundreds place. So I'm going to turn that to a 600. I'm going to drop down my 110 that's still left here and drop down my 0 ones. And so now I know that my answer is done when each of my digits are a single digit in each column. So my answer is 610. All right, let's go ahead and get your workbook out. And I want you to turn to page 71 in your workbook. Pause the video till you get yourself ready. All right, and we're going to look at the sample problem that they gave us. Now, again, guys, they really want us to start estimating. That way, when we get our answer, we can see if our answer even makes sense. So here's the example problem, 148 plus 59. They changed 148 to the easy 150. They changed 59 to an easy 60. And when they added those two together, they got 210. So that's their estimate. Their answer needs to be close to that estimate. So now we take 148 plus 59 and we're going to write it vertically. And remember, spreading out the numbers. So 148 plus 59. All right, then they went through and they added each of the columns. So in the hundreds place, they had 1. In the tens place, they had 4 plus 5 is 9. And in the ones place, they had 8 plus 9 is 17. Then they had to start doing some trading. In the ones place, there was 17 ones. So remember, 10 of those ones, we can trade it for a 10. So now instead of having 9 tens, we have 10 tens. Go ahead and drop that 7 back down and drop that 100 back down. All right, now I still have double digit in the tens place. If I have 10 tens, guys, I can trade 10 tens for 100. So I'm going to change that 100 to 200. Now I have 0 left here and still drop down my 7. So my answer is 207, which is really close to my estimate of 210. All right, so now let's try one on our own. Let's look at, they gave us a double-digit number to try out here. Let's just go ahead together and do the estimate. So what would you change 67 to? What's close but easier? 67 is really close to 70, right? And what would you change 25 to make it easier? 25 is close to 30. So when I add those two numbers together, 70 plus 30, my answer should be close to 100. Let's go ahead and rewrite the problem vertically. So go ahead and write 67. Remember, leave a nice big space here, plus 25. And let's go ahead and draw our column down. Separate those tens and ones. All right, let's go ahead and add each column. So I have 6 plus 2 is 8, and I have 7 plus 5 is 12. All right, now look, I cannot leave a double digit in any of my columns. I'm going to have to do some trading. So if I have 12 ones, 10 of them is going to trade for a 10. So I'm going to trade that over and turn that to a 9 and bring my 2 down. All right, both of my columns now have a single digit in there, so I know my answer is complete. My answer is 92, and that is close to my estimate of 100. All right, let's try another one. So 227 plus 386. Go ahead and pause the video and do an estimate, please. All right, I'm going to do my estimate. Now, you may have chosen to use slightly different numbers, but I'm going to change 227 is really close to 230. And 386 is really close to 390. Now, when I look at those two numbers and I go to add them up, those numbers are still kind of hard for me to add in my head, so I'm going to go ahead and choose one of these to round to the nearest 100, and I know that this one here is really close to 400, so I'm going to go ahead and change that to 400. The purpose of an estimate is to find close but easier numbers. If they're not any easier, make them easier, okay? So 230 plus 400 is 630. My answer should be close to that. All right, let's go ahead and rewrite the problem vertically and spread out those numbers. So I have 227 plus 386, and I'm going to go ahead and draw my columns. All right, pause the video if you need to catch up. All right, now I'm going to add each of my columns. Now, it really doesn't matter where you start with this strategy. You can start with the hundreds, you can start with the ones, you can start with the tens. We're just adding each of the columns, okay? So 2 plus 3 is 5 in that column. 2 plus 8 is 10 for that column. And 7 plus 6 is 13 for that column. All right, now I'm not done until I do all of my trading. Now, for this, I do like to start with the ones. And that's really what you're going to start with when you get started in that traditional way of doing some math, okay? All right, so let's look at our 13. If I have 13 ones, 10 of them will trade for the tens place. So I have 10 tens, that's going to change to 11 tens. Drop down your 3, drop down your 5. All right, step back and take a look. I still have a double digit here in my tens place, so 11 tens. Remember, 10 of them is going to trade for a 100, so now I'm going to change that to 600, drop this 1 right down here, and drop my 3 back down here. My answer is 613. Now, a 613, pretty close to 630. It's pretty close, especially when you're talking about numbers in the, 200s plus 300s. 613 is pretty close to 630. All right, let's have you do number 3 all on your own. I want you to do the estimate, and I want you to bring down the numbers and write them vertically and try that column addition on your own. Pause the video and then restart the video to check your work. All right, so boys and girls, I hope you really did this on your own and you weren't just waiting for me to do the problem for you. All right, let's look at our estimate. I'm going to change 481. I'm going to go ahead and change that to an easy 500. It's close enough to 500. And I'm going to change 239 to 240. I like to change one of them to the nearest hundreds and one of them to the nearest tens sometimes. That's kind of my strategy. All right, 500 plus 240 is going to be 740. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do my columns here. So 481, nice and spread out, plus 239, nice and spread out. Draw my columns down through here. Probably need to draw them a little bit longer for all my trading. All right, and here I go. So do all my columns. I'll show you that I can do my ones first. It doesn't matter. 1 plus 9, let's say I got 10 in this column. 8 plus 3, I got 11 in this column. And 4 plus 2, I have 6 in that column. All right, now it's time for some trading. Start with the ones place. I think it's easiest. If I have 10 ones, I'm going to trade those 10 of them for another 10, right? So now I have 12 tens. Drop down that 0. Drop down my 6. That way I don't forget about it. Okay, I still have a double digit in the tens place. So if I have 12 tens, 10 of them is going to go over here to the hundreds place. That's going to change that to a 7. Drop down my 2. Drop down my 0. My answer is 720. And that is pretty close to my estimate of 740. All right, so boys and girls, that is it for column addition. So yesterday you learned partial sums addition, and today you learned column addition. And so now kind of practice both of those strategies and see which strategy you like the best, okay? Let's go ahead and review how to do this same problem that we just did using the partial add-ins strategy. So let me rewrite this problem on the next page, and we'll just review that real quick to see which strategy you like better. So 481 plus 239. Now with the partial add-ins, we're going to write 481 plus 239. All right, now remember, we're writing them like an expanded form. So we're going to do the 400 plus the 200, which equals 600. We're going to do the 80 plus the 30, which 8 plus 3 is 11 with a 0 on the end. And then my 1 plus 9 is 9. Got to remember to keep all of those lined up with the ones, tens, and hundreds, so then I can add each of my place values, 7, 1, and 9. Whoops, I apologize, boys and girls. Boy, I messed up on that one. Hold on a second. Oh my goodness, I am not redoing this whole video over again. 1 plus 9, of course this is exactly what I would do in class, right? And then somebody would catch me and we would realize that teachers make mistakes too. So 1 plus 9 is 10, I'm sorry. As soon as I got that answer, I'm like, wait a second, that wasn't the answer I got just a little while ago. All right, 1 plus 9 is 10. Now I'm going to add up all my columns. 6 plus 1 is 7, 1 and 1 is 2, 0, 0, 0 is 0. Now that 720 looks like my answer on the other page of 720. All right, I'm going to do it one more time, boys and girls. 481 plus 239. Okay, same problem. This time, I'm not going to rewrite it vertically. I'm going to do that partial add-ins by doing, remember us doing this in second grade? I'm going to pull down my hundreds with my hundreds, my tens with my tens, and my ones with my ones. So if I have 400 plus 200, that is 600. If I have 80 plus 30, 8 plus 3 is 11 with a 0 on the end of it, right? And 1 plus 9 is 10. And then I can add those all together. Okay, so when I add 600 plus 110 plus 10, I might even have to put some of these together. 110 plus 10 is 120. And then when I add on my 600, I would have 720. Okay, so just another little strategy. This is really doing partial add-ins as well, but not writing it vertically, still keeping it horizontal. All right, boys and girls, the nice thing about learning all of these strategies is that once we practice each one of the strategies, you're going to decide which one you are really good at and which one you are really comfortable with. And that's the one that you can adopt to use all the time. Okay? And also, each of these strategies will help you as we get ready to do just the traditional algorithm your parents are waiting for coming up soon. All right, guys, that is it for lesson 3-4.